Thank you for inviting us into this beautiful sanctuary. I grew up as a Roman Catholic. Both my parents are Italian, and it just came along with that culture that, at least where I grew up, that's if you were Italian, you were Roman Catholic. And that was the end of the story. And so I went to our Catholic church, and I went to Sunday school, and I was confirmed. But I knew what the message was for me as a gay man, even though I was not out. I was dating girls until I was 19. But the message was clear that the Catholic Church was not supportive of me and people like me. And I needed to change if I was going to stay in that congregation. And I just knew in my heart that that wasn't going to happen. And so I left the church at age 14 when I went away to school. I went to a boarding school, and on Sundays we did have chapel, but it was non-denominational, probably some form of Protestant, but I never went. I slept late on Sunday mornings because I just didn't feel any connection at all to anything religious or even perhaps spiritual of that nature. And I went away to college, and I came out as gay at 19, similar to Kay. Maybe not so similar, but the age at least. And started dating guys and having my first real relationships, even though, I dated girls. But, when you're gay and you're dating a girl, it just feels a little awkward, like you're just not right, you're not in the right film or the right picture. And so once I started dating guys, I got it. I knew what everybody was talking about when I was growing up with my friends who were straight and having girlfriends, and the things that they were telling me about their relationships that I just couldn't relate to, having a girlfriend. It just didn't make any sense to me. But it made a lot of sense at 19, dating guys. And I didn't think I would ever go back to church. I just didn't think that that was in the cards for me. But I met my husband Tom in Connecticut, and we started dating, and soon after that he was moving to Randolph, Massachusetts. And so I moved with him. And we still do live in the same house in Randolph. And shortly thereafter, the country really started changing with this concept of same-sex marriage. And we were a couple. I thought of him as my spouse, and actually being involved in Speak Out, one of the other directors, I was on the board of directors for a few years, she called her partner her wife, and I thought that was pretty amazing. Even though they technically weren't married legally. And so I started calling Tom my husband. And I think he liked it, but he was like, no one asked me to marry them. I'm not anybody's husband. And so when the time came that it became legal in 2004, I bought rings. And I made dinner. And after dinner, I reached down under the couch, and I pulled out the ring for Tom, and I gave it to him. And he said yes, which was encouraging, his reply. But then, of course, he decided, okay, so now we're engaged, but, what are we going to do about a wedding? Tom didn't grow up religious at all. His family rarely went to church. My family went to church every Sunday, 11:30 Mass. It was there wasn't even a question in your mind. And so I wanted a wedding that was going to be something that my family would understand. Being Roman Catholic Italian, we get married in churches. It's just the way we do things. We don't get married on the beach or on a mountaintop. It's not in the cards, it's not our culture. So I was involved with an organization, South Shore Civil Marriage for All, and late in 2004, Mass Equality called me and said, for those who know, Mass Equality was the organization working in Massachusetts for legalization of same-sex marriage. And so they called me and said, we'd like for you to just call all the churches in Randolph and find out who's performing same-sex marriages. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And so there were 11 churches and synagogues. I called every one. I called the Catholic churches because I said, I will call them all. And of course the 2 Catholic churches said, no, we don't do that. And the 2 temples said, no, we're not doing that. And then I called the Congregational Church. And this woman answered the phone, and she said, why, yes, honey, we do. And she called me honey. I was like, this has got to be a cool place, where this woman, gets on the phone with a stranger, and she calls me honey. So I hung up the phone, and that was the only church out of 11 that said yes. All the other 10 said no. And so when Tom came home, I said, there's a church in Randolph performing same-sex marriages. He goes, yeah, which one? I said, it was the Congregational Church. I said, we should go down there this Sunday. And, they have service at 10 o'clock. We should go down and check them out. So Tom was like, sure, you want to do that? Sure. So we went down, and I had never been in this building. I had lived in town for, 15 years. I had never entered this building, and I did, and nothing like this. Congregational churches are very plain and simple, but I like it. And the best thing I like about it is when you walk down the aisle, at the very top of the altar area is it's just a gold cross, and at the very top it says 3 words: God is love. And that was the most amazing thing for me, to hear that and to know that I was part of that I was part of this love, and therefore it made me part of God. And I wanted to be part of that again. So we really haven't missed a service since. And then again, when it came time to have our wedding, I convinced Tom to have it in the church. And he was fine with that. And people came in, and my family's huge. Typical, Italians. I'm one of 6. I have 35 first cousins. Tom's one of 3. He has no first cousins. But he was okay with that. Some of his family and friends came, and a lot of my family came. And we were up at the altar, and my parents came. And my parents were not supportive of me coming out and being a gay man. That just wasn't in the cards for them. I'm the only son of 6, and my job was to marry a woman and have children, preferably some male children, who would then carry on the line. And so for a while, my parents were estranged. But by this point, in 2005, they had come around, and they enjoyed, or were accepting and understanding of the fact that Tom and I were a couple, and we were happy and loving each other, and that was a good thing for me and for Tom. So they were in the front pew, and the minister pronounced us legally wed, and we faced the congregation. Everybody was applauding. I held Tom's hand up, and I looked down at the front pew, and my parents were sitting there crying with joy. It was the most amazing day of thought in my life, which maybe some of you who are married, maybe you've had a similar experience. And so that's the story of my reconnection with God. Thank you.